Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. And today our topic matter is on TMJ. And I've written the fancy name on here, but basically what it is, and 75% of Americans will suffer with this disorder sometime in their life, with about 5 to 10% of people having real chronic issues. What it is right between our connection to our head and our jaw is a joint right in here that enables the jaw to move, up and down, sideways, and all of that. Well, what happens is this area gets inflamed, and it can be on one side or both sides due to numerous causes that we'll go over, and it produces, clicking or popping sound. I've literally seen people that can go pop, pop, pop in their jaw lines when they're chewing or they're opening their mouth. If you've ever sat next to somebody who has TMJ while they're trying to eat and chew, it's an interesting venture because you're going to get click, 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 click. Some people cannot open their mouth all the way because they have such tightness and inflammation in the joint. Stiffness, tenderness, and pain. Some people are excruciating pain. My mother came down with this when she was having quite a bit of dental work, and apparently the dentist had done some improper work that caused her jaw to be malaligned, and then the continual opening or keeping the jaw open for all the dental work caused this particular joint to become inflamed. You'll get sometimes ringing in the ear because everything's always connected, all with hearing, sinuses, all of that. You can get runny noses, facial pain in the sinuses and all throughout here. And literally, if it's severe, you can actually get, because this will tighten up, the facial does not look symmetrical and evenly balanced. The causes are numerous, and so we kind of go through this, but it can be to a traumatic injury, a blow of some kind, of fall coming down off a bicycle, any types of those trauma wounds, grinding on the teeth or clenching of the jaws when you're extremely stressed. And what's really interesting is oftentimes people who have blood sugar imbalances will sit there and clench their jaws and grind their teeth all the time. So that's a good indicator. Prolonged thumb sucking, so hence getting the kids out of their mouths. Or continual gum chewing. When people chew gum, they've got they never stop chewing, especially if they chew with their mouth open, as I've seen in the past. Can cause inflammation in the joint area. Nutritional deficiencies. When these joints deteriorate, or when there's a magnesium-calcium imbalance or lack thereof, you can get tightness and stiffness in this joint area and the tendon and ligaments that surround it that enable it to move up and down. Anything that causes unusual jaw pressure, some people will lay funny up against here, or they'll go like this all the time. And then something that I meant to write down here, and it looks like I left out, medications. And there are medications such as Boniva or those types of drugs that doctors give to help increase bone density, which is its own little scenario of untruth. But anyway, those can cause deterioration of jawbone and jaw joints as well. So those are problematic. There are other medications such as acid reflux drugs that block all the calcium, magnesium, especially to the minor joints and bones and teeth, which can contribute to TMJ. So when you're doing these medications, it's very important that you know that this is a potential thing. And it can be excruciating pain. I've had customers come in that were in agony, that literally didn't want to do anything but a liquid diet because of it. When we're talking about a diet of when somebody's actually suffering from TMJ, and since 75% of the population suffers with it sometime in their life, I've had it temporarily, 70 to 90% respond to simple cures, which include quite a bit of the supplements that I'm going to recommend. And for some reason, 4 times the amount of women, maybe it's because we like to talk, tend to suffer from it, but I think it's more because our jaw structure is not as strong as the male jaw structure, which lends itself to more joint problems as well. When you're suffering, you're going to obviously eat meals that require less chewing. So you're going to look for soups and stews, protein smoothies, things like that. Vegetables that are cooked. You're not going to sit there and crunch on apples or anything that requires a lot of chewing. You're going to eat blood sugar stabilizing foods. And I know you're going like, gosh, what do blood sugars have to do with it? Remember, one of the causes of that jaw clenching and tightness is excessive amounts of sugar imbalances or sugars, which also cause the body to become extremely acidic. And when you become acidic, you're going to have more pain. So alkaline the blood as much as possible is really important when you're suffering from any type of inflammation or inflammatory disorder. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, and nightshade vegetables, because they don't allow the body to deflame and they keep it acidic. And remember, alcohol is a sugar. So once again, more sugar you have, more acidic you're going to be. We've got some testing that the docs should probably think about running you through when you have or are diagnosed or have a potential for TMJ. Spinal and posture assessments. So you can get an x-ray to see whether or not that joint is dysfunctional or whether or not you're malaligned. And I think sometimes maybe chiropractors may be a little bit better at being able to judge that malalignment. They seem to be extremely proficient at that. A vitamin and mineral analysis. Are your bones crumbling because you're mineral deficient, or because your acid reflux drugs or your wonderful little bone-enhancing drug and medications? Food and environmental allergies can contribute to that as well, because you're going to stay chronically inflamed. So any area that has inflammation is going to be exacerbated by having food or allergic reactions and responses. Now also keep in mind too that steroidals and the chronic use of steroidal medications for inflammation, sinuses, allergies, asthma, also lends itself to those joint deteriorations as well too. So keep that in mind, one of the side effects as well too. Now when we're talking about supplements for TMJ, there's quite a few things, but they're pretty basic, and they have pretty much to do with the support of joints. And most of them would probably be what you would use for arthritis as well. But number one, you're going to do a magnesium, and preferably a magnesium citrate, aspartate, not an oxide. I see more docs recommending magnesium oxide because that's what they're trained in medical school. But you're lucky if magnesium oxide has a 7 to 18% absorption rate. Awful magnesium for working on your muscles or nerve tissues, but a citrate has a much better absorption. Relaxes the nervous system and then the muscles around the jaws. A calcium citrate or a bone calcium, also known as calcium hydroxyapatite or apatate. It is what our teeth and our bones are made of. And citrate are typically the types of calciums that are found, or the type of calcium that are found in vegetables, and particularly like spinach and that type of thing. Now I know a lot of docs say watch the spinach because the oxalates and all that, but most plant sources imbalance with magnesium, because calcium aids the absorption of magnesium, assist bone health, and they'll help the jaws and relax the muscles and nerves, because this can be pretty severe nerve pain, and oftentimes, like I said, excruciating. So much so that it can interfere with sleep and everyday activities. MSM, some studies on that showed that 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day reduced inflammation and helped with connective tissue repair. Homeopathic medicines, and most of the time I'm not real specific on these, but this one stood out pretty plain and clear as far as relaxing muscles, and I wrote the potency and the amounts. Whenever you're dealing with homeopathics, you need to take them between meals and try not to touch them with your hands. It affects them. I know a lot of docs think of them as voodoo medicine, but they really do work, and more physicians are starting to recommend them. Good multiple high in B vitamins. reduces stress, and helps the muscle tissues relax and the nerves relax. Without bees, you can't deal with stress. So, and this isn't your standard warehouse multiple or your nice little ones that have silver on the end. Those are got toxic substances and they're very low in B vitamins. Hyaluronic acid or N-acetylglucosamine, and we use that in arthritic conditions, but what that can do is, particularly hyaluronic acid, is it can soften the cartilage tissue and the joint tissue inside there, and it can help it heal, make it more pliable and flexible and less stiff. Chondroitin sulfate is known to aid and assist and rebuild cartilage and joints, so it can be helpful in taking the combination. And when I say hyaluronic acid or N-acetylglucosamine, and I'm very specific about N-acetylglucosamine because it does not affect blood sugars, regular glucosamine sulfate can. Ester C. Now, anytime you get carpal tunnel syndrome, any connective tissue disorders, arthritis, you're going to always want to keep your C levels up, and you want to do a buffered C form because it stays in the body much longer and is more effective. And remember, it's alkali producing. The ascorbic acids can rob your body of minerals and cause kidney stones. So we always want an ester C or a buffered C. And the studies were supporting 2,000 milligrams twice a day aids the healing and speeds the repair of the connective tissue and joints. Some studies on boswellia, 250 milligrams of an extract 3 times a day helps restore, and I know you don't think of boswellia, or most people don't think of boswellia as helping to restore blood vessels, but there were some studies actually that help support that it literally does help with the circulation, not only just the reduction to the particular area, but with circulatory issues, similar like to ginger and that type of thing for increasing circulation to an area. Bromelain. Now this is my buddy on just about everything as far as reduction of inflammation and well, it eats scar tissue as well too, because oftentimes if you have a chronic problem, you're going to form scar tissue in all this connective tissue. And between keeping the bromelain and buffered C levels up, we can kind of keep the scarring down and we can speed up the healing. Bromelain is kind of a natural anti-inflammatory. It's kind of funny, after post-op, the really good plastic surgeons who do plastic surgery, who want to prevent scarring, will put their patients on some homeopathics, but the C, the buffered C, and bromelain, that combination on an empty stomach. Now, there's some other items I want to point out physiologically. When you're sleeping, I know I sleep on my side as a general rule and I switch around. But when you have TMJ, you want to try and sleep on your back. It pulls the muscles down and it can give you relief. Because if you're having one side or the other non-supported, or if you sleep on your stomach, it can be problematic from a standpoint of increasing your pain. So if you have an ability to sleep on your back, I have a hard time doing that, but if you do, or if you're a snorer, it'll increase your snoring, try that. There are also exercises in physical therapy, and I'm going to talk about a few things having to do with exercises in the next segment of the show for jaw and TMJ. But a good physical therapist can help with this as well, to alleviate that in combination with some of the supplements to get those tissues a little less inflamed. Also too, dental. Now, before you go spending tons and tons of money on all the fancy dental treatments that are associated with readjusting the jawline, try the simple stuff first. As I noted before, statistical data showed that 70 to 90% of these are resolvable with just basic supplementation and proper nutrients. Okay, next we're going to be moving on to the fitness exercise portion of our show. Thank you. Welcome to the fitness portion of our show. And today I'm going to illustrate, and there'll be an illustration that will come up in just a minute or so, that will show you an exercise that can be helpful for maybe relieving some of the pain from TMJ, besides physical therapy and maybe some good chiropractic. And if I can ask Bill to put it up for me. What we have is we have a lady up against a wall with a 3-inch towel wrapped around her neck and wrapped around her lower body, and she's hands out, but she's flat against the wall. So what you're trying to do is you're going to change your posture a little bit when you have your shoulders up against the wall, your head up against the wall. You have this towel here, and it's going to put you in what is called a good alignment. When you get in good alignment, and there are other exercises that a physical therapist can show you, when you get in good alignment, what that does is that relieves the pain. You're going to hold that exercise for 3 minutes and try to do it at least twice a day. Next, we're going to be moving on to the research portion of our show. Thank you very much. Welcome to the research portion of our show, and with us today is Ralph Turchiano.
And thank you for that intro. And first off, to lead off with our trivia question, this happens to come from an article that was printed in the Associated Press titled, "Whooping Cough Vaccination Fades in 3 Years." Now, there's some interesting data in here. Now, the first part of this question regards the article is basically what percentage of children caught the whooping cough vaccinated compared to unvaccinated. And this study was done in Marin County, where a large number of children are anti-vaccination. And also keep in mind, it comes at a time too when the state of California is trying to mandate, actually turn kids away from school if they don't get the whooping cough vaccination. And when I mean fully vaccinated, I mean they had the 5 doses of whooping cough vaccinations, but they still, a certain percentage of them got sick. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. But first, let's look at tinnitus. An interesting discovery on tinnitus. Now, tinnitus, what they found out was basically when you listen to loud music or have loud noises, that the little hairs inside the ear tend to die. What they discovered is part of that ringing that you hear in the ear is actually a phantom pain. When those certain hairs die off, the brain tries to rationalize it, just like if someone is missing a limb. And actually you're hearing a sound that hair was responsible for before it vanished. Henceforth, a phantom pain or phantom sound, in this case tinnitus. Now, this was printed in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. And what they discovered was really something interesting. And they said this. Now, you have to actually retrain the brain when it comes to tinnitus. But there's a neurotransmitter that plays an incredibly huge role in it. And I'm going to read a quote from the article. The experiment showed that tinnitus is correlated with lower levels of an inhibitory neurotransmitter called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, but not with the excitatory neurotransmitters like serotonin and acetylcholine and things along those lines. They demonstrated with drugs now, doesn't mean that maybe it can't be done with supplements, but I'm telling you the information because those with tinnitus may want to give it a shot. But here it goes. They discovered with drugs that increased the level of GABA in the brain, it literally eliminated tinnitus. Got rid of it totally. Just by raising GABA levels in the brain. Now, whether this can be done with supplements or not, that's for medical science to determine. But however, to get rid of this, which is basically a very aching condition with a large number of people, is actually a pretty cool discovery. Not to say how far medical industry carries this along. Now, another wonderfully mandated government program in regards to our lights. Now, obviously, they're trying to get rid of a lot of our old light bulbs, which I understand. But they're moving towards white LED light bulbs, which just happen to basically have a wavelength between 440 to 500, what they call nanometers. Now, what this means, basically, is a certain chemical in the brain called melatonin is reduced more than 5 times down compared to the standard light bulbs of today. Now, keep in mind, for those that are not familiar with melatonin, it controls your circadian rhythms. It's an antioxidant and a very, very powerful anti-cancer agent. So hypothetically, these white LED bulbs, even though it may not be chemically cancerous, can still be cancerous because of light beams that they transmit, which unfortunately in a lot of states, due to the fact of environmental concerns, we're being forced to turn to. Good for the environment, bad for humans. You make the decision in regards to that. And this was published in the Journal of Environmental Management. And what they discovered is that basically, quote unquote, that wavelength suppresses the production of melatonin in the brain's pineal gland. And they said it's already known that it does this. Also known as the fact that suppressing the production of melatonin, which is responsible for, among other things, for the regulation of a biological clock, causes behavior disruptions and health problems. Something to think about when you change out these LED light bulbs, and your children in the room, and all of a sudden the behavior may begin to get a little changed, a little cranky, may have to do with the light itself. And they said too that lamp manufacturers cannot claim they did not know about the consequences of artificial light, meaning they can't be held harmless. They knew this light did this. The state of California should have known that this type of light that we're moving to does this. And basically, they should not have never mandated until the studies were actually certain that basically changing to a new light bulb could not cause other issues. Problem when the government gets involved with human health. Now, breast cancer and plant-based, well, actually, take this back. A plant compound, which is fairly common, has been shown to reduce breast cancer mortality dramatically. And this is something called the lignin. Now, lignin is a fibrous compound often found in better forms of flaxseed oil. A lot of you guys out there do flaxseed oil, but you may not be doing one with the lignins in it, which could also give a lot of reasons for conflicting results. So when in doubt with any plant material, make sure it's high in lignins. How much of an effect has it had? Well, within a 6-year period, after they studied over 1,140 women, it reduced mortality from breast cancer by 40%. That's a pretty strong impact for a basic, simple plant-based compound. So basically, they also said now, we have the first clear evidence showing that lignins lower not only the risk of developing postnatal breast cancer, but also the mortality risk. Something to think about, and something that's pretty cool that you could do on your own. Those doing flaxseed oil, get the one with the lignins in it. Now, on to maple syrup. Now, normally we think of maple syrup as being a sugary type substance, but however though, it's got some pretty good health benefits. And this one's interesting in regards to the liver. Again, this is published in the November 2011 issue of the Bioscience, Biotechnology, and Biochemistry. And I don't read quote unquote because this has to do with livers. Healthy laboratory rats were fed a diet with some carbohydrates were replaced with maple syrup from Canada. They yielded significantly better results in liver function tests than control groups fed a diet with sugar, kind of mimicking maple syrup itself. And listen to this. They said liver disease in the United States, or non-alcohol related liver disease, now affects up to 25% of the people in the United States. That's 1 in 4. All right, they also said that only after 11 days, the mice on the maple syrup diet showed significantly decreased levels of liver enzymes AST, ALT, and LDH in the blood. Stated biomarkers for evaluating liver function. The gene expression profiling observations also suggest a mechanism whereby the maple syrup diet caused genes involved in the production of harmful ammonia in the liver to downregulate, that is, to be less active. The research contributes to our growing understanding of the incredible health potential of maple syrup. Canadian grade B organic is what they used. All right, now back to broccoli. We know broccoli has an incredible anti-cancer effect, but however, do you know broccoli's anti-cancer effect requires a couple of things to happen first before it works? One is you cannot cook it heavily. You only can lightly steam it. Two, it requires an enzyme from spicy food to be converted to an anti-cancer compound. What they discovered is that basically broccoli teams very well with an enzyme called myrosinase. Now this myrosinase basically is found in certain things like broccoli sprouts, mustard, horseradish, and wasabi. Also radishes, cabbage, arugula, watercress, and also Brussels sprouts. That basically the myrosinase is required for the broccoli to basically convert its enzymes to sulforamine. So based on what they discovered too is when broccoli was combined with these foods, they saw the bioactivity of these anti-cancer compounds actually increase in the bloodstream in less than 30 minutes. So remember, they said the spicier the food, the better, because high levels of myrosinase. So myrosinase compound foods mixed with broccoli, A+, mustard, horseradish, wasabi, and the like. And now we hear about stroke prevention. I can't tell you the number of people that are taking medications and blood thinners to prevent strokes. Well, an amazing way of preventing strokes, which a lot of us are unaware of, is simply eating what we call white fruits and vegetables. They found out, and this was printed in the Journal of the American Heart Association, during a 10-year study where they documented 233 strokes, they discovered the risk of stroke incident went down 52% for those that ate the highest intake of white fruits and vegetables, such as apples and pears. Not the dark green leafy vegetables, not the other fruits and vegetables of other colors, but white fruits and vegetables. Each 25 gram per day increase in white fruits and vegetable consumption was associated with a 9% lower risk of stroke. An average apple is 120 grams. You want to prevent a stroke? A couple different ways you can do it. You can take some medication that makes you bruise like you're in a bad football game, or you can eat an apple a day. Pretty easy solution. And now, back to that curiosity question. All right, what was the number of children who were vaccinated that got the whooping cough compared to basically those that were not vaccinated? Well, in this article, Dr. David Witt, Chief of Infections at Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in San Rafael, California, published his findings in the American Society for Microbiology Conference in Chicago. Remember this guy's name, Dr. David Witt, because they're going to crucify him over his studies. 80% of the children who got whooping cough, who became infected with whooping cough, were fully vaccinated with the whooping cough vaccine. Only 20% of the children who were not vaccinated at all came down with whooping cough. From there, you could draw your own conclusion. But it seemed like the more you were vaccinated with the whooping cough vaccine, the greater the opportunity you were going to catch the whooping cough, according to the study, to the figures, the way they actually displayed. They said they looked at Marin County because of anti-vaccine sentiment. And they also said, too, that they expected to see the illness concentrated in unvaccinated people, because that's the way we were believed, because of propaganda. But they found out, you have 5 doses of the vaccine, your chance of basically getting whooping cough increased pretty dramatically over those kids that did not. Well, thank you very much for the time, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Look into all this data and this information. Some of our upcoming shows will include vaccination research. Thank you very much for joining us.